Hello and welcome to Just Onside. OS is not happy and he's going to explain why. It is quite late for OS. It's only, I think, 5:20 in the UK, but this man's been busting my round things. So, OS, how are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm not just talking about your tummy when you say round things, but yeah, it's a good 4 hours, Ayub, as we head into the winter. So we're 4 hours ahead. It's 9:30. It's a working day, and luckily Arsenal won yesterday, so I'm in a good mood. That's the only th saving grace I would say. But I'm doing good, buddy. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad, not too bad. I mean, obviously, we didn't get the result but in a sense, I was expecting that defeat. So it there's no surprises there. He's still in the job, fuck. So that sort of disappoints me a little bit, but I don't expect. I mean, we'll talk about that later on. But let's talk about something happier. Obviously, you talked about Arsenal winning. Not just winning. I think they. I mean, I said it a few weeks ago that you might as well give them the title now. And I think after yesterday, you just might as well. You might as well just sort of say, right, in terms of, I mean, we talked about last season being a bit of a runaway for Liverpool. I think it's going to be similar this season. I think the nearest contender, and I'm not saying contenders, were Man City. Disappointing result for Man City. One of a few disappointing results. I think it's a foregone conclusion. Certainly from my point of view, it's a done deal. What do you as an Arsenal fan think? Is it a done deal?
No, I don't think it can be. Not at this early stage. There are distinctions to be drawn. Last year, when Liverpool were running away with it, uh, I think the only time I felt confident that they were for sure going to win the title is once they were up double digits. And if you remember, that was relatively early in the season. You say about contender singular as opposed to plural. I'm not sure how your son Mo's going to take that because his team currently
He's a
sits
realist.
second.
He knows that Chelsea aren't in the mix. Top four, yes.
uh,
Forget the title.
Yeah, I mean, look, they are second right now, and there's a huge game at Stamford Bridge next Sunday. Right now, Arsenal are for sure, without a shadow of a doubt, the best team in the league. There is something I don't know if you see it the same way, Ayub, in terms of from a neutral's perspective, but right now, just in recent times, they seem to be just getting the balance a little bit more on point in terms of attacking intent. And for me, what's most enjoyable watching as a fan uh, is the thing I would say that I didn't see on Saturday when I watched Liverpool play against Nottingham Forest, which would frustrate me no end if I was a Liverpool fan. Yes, they won the title last year and deserve huge credit, and I think we were very praiseworthy on the podcast. Um, but right now they look soft as a team. We'll get into that perhaps later on. When I look at Arsenal, they epitomise everything that you
Mm.
want in a football team. They fight as though they're trying to stave off relegation in terms of duels, in terms of tackles, in terms of
Yeah.
scrapping. They're on the floor. They're committing a few cynical fouls as you should
Mm.
in games at certain points, but they're strong. They're robust. They don't give anything easy. They cover each other. You heard Thierry Henry after the game speak about Timber and Saka, where they're both defending together, they're both attacking
Mm.
together. If you see one, you're seeing the other
Mm.
invariably. Um, and that's what I love about this football team right now. It's not just the wins. It's not just the goals. They've obviously started to put a few. They started to get a bit more attacking potency. You can sense, but it's the fact that their application and their attitude in game earns them the right to win some of these games. And some of them they've won on set pieces. You know that, but
Mm.
you feel as though they've earned the right through
Yep.
sheer application and aptitude, which you need. And I know before we used to kind of scoff at this kind of English spirit of duels and second balls and all of that. But when you watch Arsenal, they do that better than anyone. Yes,
Mm.
Spurs left a lot to be desired, but I think a lot of that is what Arsenal do. And you know me, I'm as cautious as it comes as being an Arsenal fan, but they do take this away from a lot of teams when they play them. They take away your potency because you're so scared and you normally tend to sit deep with Arsenal, and Arsenal are just so passive and so cautious with the ball that teams just sometimes don't really have a plan of attack in terms of okay, how we're going to get through the thirds against this team that is a big team, a physical team. So getting through them isn't no easy. They don't carry any passengers in that team, are you?
Mm. Yeah.
And then the fact is, if you do that, you're then leaving yourselves up to the possibility of leaving Saka one on one. Trossard, who's having the season for the ages in
Mm.
terms of contribution. So that's the quandary that a lot of teams face when they face Arsenal, which is okay, we can open up and we can perhaps, try and find opportunities to cut through them if we can, but you're taking such huge risks because Arsenal can get up the pitch very quickly. You've got Declan Rice, a gazelle in terms of that midfield, powerful running. He's having one of his best seasons. You saw that with the Eze goal where he just played it first time, which is what I
Mm,
think a lot of pundits have been asking for, like progressive passing from Declan Rice. But right now, this team at UB is clicking on all cylinders in terms of. I mean, they conceded a very soft goal yesterday, but they conceded next to nothing against Spurs. Yes, Spurs aren't the
mm,
most. They're not the most attackingly potent team right now. I think away from home, that was their first defeat. But they gave them nothing other than that one half chance, which Richarlison obviously took incredibly well, but thoroughly deserved. For me, like I said, the biggest and it makes me smile. It makes me happy when I watch them. Is their application? They don't give anything away. Even Arteta screaming at the team, "Get back,
mm,
get in shape." If you see Timber slightly out of position, Eze's covering. If you see Rice has gone for the press, you'll see Trossard tuck it in. There's a real hunger about this team. They're not giving teams a sniff. And you know that's pretty demoralizing for teams when you
mm,
think, bloody hell, it's not as though we can get an easy opportunity where if you get one pass, two pass through them, you're through. Even on the off chance you're through, it's against the back line of invariably Gabriel Saliba. Yes, Gabriel didn't play. Hincapié, I thought, had a really tidy game. The best defenders are those that you don't notice. You just didn't notice him
mm,
yesterday. Calafiori, Timber. I mean, how much joy are you going to get out of those in terms of on a 50-50 opportunity? So they epitomize what a title winning team looks like in terms of their commitment to defending, their commitment to tackling, their commitment to saying to the team, you want to have a scrap? Fine, we can have a scrap. You want to play a bit of football? We can play a bit of football. So they're ticking all boxes right now. Class of the league, without a shadow of a doubt. Too many other teams, I would say, have too many issues right now, whether that's a lack of desire, um, a lack of quality, a lack of application. And I think that's the one thing that I would say differentiates Arsenal this season from their nearest competitors. Their aptitude and application in game to keep clean sheets or to keep, let's say, attacking opportunities for for the opposition to a minimum is incredible, and they're now slowly starting to find some attacking potency with what you would say is that some key players settle, as they obviously had an incredible game yesterday, but you're starting to see some key players settle, Saka settling into rhythm, Trossard having a great season, and then you think about the depth coming back at you. It's a top class outfit right now. I thought it was a wonderful performance. As an Arsenal fan, could not fault it. It was probably their best performance so far. Thoroughly deserved. Yes, we could speak about Spurs, but Arsenal do that to a lot of teams. You think the other team should offer more, but I've seen that happen to a lot of opposition teams against Arsenal. It's simply because Arsenal are so comfortable from start to finish. And what I mean by is that from 1 to 11, they're just comfortable on the ball, knock it around. They know the angles, they know the spaces, they know how to play. So yeah, incredible achievement so far. I think we're about what third of the season are you? So in pole position, there's no doubt. Huge game next Sunday. I did text one of my friends yesterday that if they win against Spurs and if they win against Chelsea, even I'll agree, they're prohibitive favourites simply because the standard they're setting would suggest that there's no reason why they can't extend that lead. But again, it's a huge game, huge opportunity for Chelsea as well. I'm sure you'd agree that at least it's an opportunity for them to cut into that lead, which would bring it back down to 3. But right now, top of the league, class of the league, and for sure they will hope that bit by bit they can stay at the top of the table and extend that lead. And obviously, the proof's in the point. What I would say, just finally, Ayub, is the question around Arsenal is down the stretch, isn't it? You sense Arsenal are going to be there just because of this start.
mm,
They're going to be there or thereabouts. The question is when it comes March, April, 6 games to go, 5 games to go, you have a bit of a wobble. You're 1-0 down in the game after that. How do you recover? Do you go to pot or do you start to find answers for those inevitable questions that come? So that will be the question that Arsenal have to answer. So far, you'd say pretty much uh, test passed so far, but it's the midterms right now, not so much the final exam. So time will tell. For the time being, incredible performance, and yeah, all credit to them.
all right, I thought you, after about 10 minutes, you were going to say you're going to win the league, but you're still sort of reserved on making that call. I'll make the call, obviously. I I just can't see anybody who's going to be able to lay a glove. You talk about a wobble. Now, I'm just thinking which teams are going to be challenging in terms of sort of. I mean, apart from Sunderland, which was, I mean, that was the exception, wasn't it? Really,
Hmm.
they've absolutely just outclassed everybody, and even Sunderland. I mean, Sunderland got a draw, but really, once they went 2-1 up, really they should have seen that game out. They were the better footballing side. They had more opportunities, and perhaps on another day they would have won the game. But in saying that, Sunderland did give them a battle. At least it's we talked about somehow sort of how do you tackle this Arsenal side because it covers every single base. They tick all the boxes. If you want a battle, they're ready for a battle. If you want to try and play football, they'll out football you. So Sunderland perhaps gave an opportunity or at least a chink potentially of what teams could do. That was an exception. I think if that almost was perfect for Arsenal because it gave them an opportunity just to sort of say, well, hang on, just in case somebody does try and play this type of football, we're going to be ready next time. I think Sunderland caught them off guard. I don't think anybody else is going to catch them off guard. There is no other team. I mean, we talk about the closest. I mean, in my opinion, Manchester City were perhaps the only team that could offer competition for that league title. It's they're not the same Man City of years ago. There's a number of frailties in that Man City side at the moment. If I was playing against Arsenal, you can't see any weakness. You probably lost it before you even go out onto the pitch. You're going to look at them physically; they're imposing. You've got quality all across the pitch. You can't find a weakness. I mean, with other sides, maybe you can sort of identify some sort of weakness. There is absolutely no weakness, not in the starting 11 when players come off the bench. It's strength. It's a complete football side. I mean, I said it and I will say it again. There is no club side better than the Arsenal at this moment in time. I would be, if I'm an Arsenal supporter, I would be expecting them to win everything. And Champions League as well. I would be expecting them to win the Champions League as well.
Time will tell. They've got a lot to prove. Yeah, something you said there though is quite poignant. I don't know if you saw the post-match reaction with Sky Sports when Jamie Carragher, when speaking about the challenges Thomas Frank faces at Spurs, spoke about how, and I thought he put it quite well, to be fair, where he said, look, this is the challenge that a lot of managers face when they come from, let's call it lesser clubs in the Premier League, where you want him to do well, and he's well liked in the league and by the media and what have you. This is the challenge you're going to have when you step up to manage one of the big boys, which is that you can be relatively hard to beat and organized when you're managing Brentford, and a draw, you'll take it all day long, more
Mm,
times than not. Whereas when you're managing a big club, you've got to find ways to hurt the opposition. And to your point, Ayub, about Arsenal and what Arteta's done there, for the most part, once he's got his uh, kind of project through, yes, he's been there a long time, but you can't say that he's not. Okay, has he won the biggest stuff? Absolutely not. Will he want to win the biggest trophies? Of course, but you can't, for the life of me, explain to me as though he's not built that football club into something pretty unique and pretty special. Now they've got to top it off. There's no getting away from that,
mm.
and that's what Arteta's done. Not only has he made them a really tough outfit to play against, where you're not, it's not the same old soft Arsenal. I watched again. I don't want to go back to, we'll cover it in our second topic with Liverpool, but I saw a team there that plays soft, and I don't know what's
Mm.
happened. They've become a finesse team. And right now, this year more than any other, just because of what we've seen, the emphasis on set pieces, throw-ins, and what have you, you've got to be robust. You've got to
Mm.
be, I think, even more so than technically sound. You've got to have power. You've got to have strength. Your tacklings, everything's got to be on point. So, yeah, that's what Arteta's built. He's got to finish it off. I mean, we're only a third of the way through, and like I said, they look a real good outfit. Hincapie yesterday, I was concerned a little bit because I'm not sure what his best position is, but he was solid, kept knocking it around, kept
Yeah.
moving the ball forwards. Timber's just as consistent as they come. So yeah, they're an incredible outfit right now, but you don't win anything in October, November, December. And again, the question for Arsenal will be when they have to push through and come up against the big challenges down the stretch.
Uh, Liverpool. It just is. It's remarkable what's happened at Liverpool at this moment in time. I mean, I've obviously we know a number of Liverpool fans. Uh, I've gone on social media as well. It is toxic. I mean, the fans that I speak to, they want him out. They want him out. I mean, it's incredible. This is a man that won the league last season. We're about 12, 13 games into a new season, and they're just absolutely disillusioned with the slot. They feel that he hasn't got a clue. He's not arresting this slide. There's all sorts of theories as to why they're doing so poorly. I'm at a loss, to be honest. Really, I mean, I have no idea
Mm.
what the issues are. They've still got very very good players. I mean, they're a side that should be competing for the league. They're not, and it's hard to pinpoint exactly what the issues are. I mean, I don't know. We've obviously talked about Liverpool before. Uh, so the 13 games into the season, I think it's 13 games into the season. Uh, Whereabouts or 12, I think 12 games. What do you think? I mean, is this season a write-off already for Liverpool? And do you think Slot now is a man that is seriously under pressure?
If Daniel Farke's still got a job in the Premier League, then I think I think Arne Slot will be fine for years to come. I should say. Look, yeah, it's a nonsense, isn't it? I mean, I don't think it's strong murmurings. There's just a few, little murmurings, as they often are. Probably a lot of anti-Liverpool fans who want to see them suffer, and that's fair enough. I mean, they've won the Premier League title last year, but that Premier League title, of course, earns him incredible credit. And yeah, for me, it's a non-starter, that conversation. So I'm not going to dignify that with a response. What I would say though is they've got a lot of challenges, a lot of issues, and I don't think it can be pinpointed to one of you. I think it's a culmination of factors. I don't know if you agree, but I mean, let me count the ways. They had an incredibly tough summer. There's no getting away from that. I don't think you can understate that. And he's not used that as an excuse. He's spoken about how he intends not to use it as an excuse, the passing of Diogo Jota. But I don't think a football club can just operate normally after that. That's the one thing I would say. Not, especially not that football club that's had tragedy in the past. In terms of what Liverpool means, what they are, what they stand for as a football club. So, for me, you can't understate the impact that has. Now, how does that kind of impact the football pitch, the product on the football pitch? That's very difficult to quantify, isn't it? But we're talking about
Mm.
maybe. Do you lose your edge a little bit? Do you see sport as in some ways quite futile to some respects? In terms of and they climbed the mountain last year, and you saw how focused and how committed they were. They were the class of the league. It wasn't close. There was no Premier League title race last year. They were an incredible outfit. Their consistency in terms of their football, Arne Slot's imprint on that football team, halftime substitutions, halftime adjustments. I saw it time and time and time again. Right now, they've got issues. Obviously, like I said, a very emotional summer. A lot of players bought. I think Slots tried to transition this team into a more aesthetically pleasing football team. I mean, they were a very good football team to watch anyway. But I think that perhaps he's misjudged that in terms of how quickly that can come about, how quickly he can get them playing. I still think they'll improve as the season goes along. I think he's also misunderstood where this league is going in terms of its fullback purchases to change both fullbacks at the same time. Two stalwarts in Andy Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold for different reasons. To buy two, what I would say, attacking-minded, lightweight in terms of fullbacks, in terms of strength and robustness, especially as the league is kind of going more towards strength and physicality. I think he's misunderstood that. I think the fact that they don't have a monster in the middle of the park, McAllister's levels this season have he should be dropped. I've watched him many games. He is a yard short right now. And we're talking a third into the season. You saw him a yard short against Caicedo when Chelsea popped it around for a goal. You saw him again at the weekend, just soft. And he's not a soft football player. Yeah, he's diminutive. If you look at his
Mm.
tackling statistics, his dual statistics from last season, incredible. He's an incredible footballer, but his levels have dropped considerably so. So they don't really have a monster. Even Gravenberg, his level is not to what it was last season, and he's not. He's a more of a finesse footballer. He's not. He's not what you would call a monster, which is what you need. So, and then obviously there's the elephant in the room, and it's a big elephant right now. But Mo Salah. I mean, the challenge is. I think this is the reason why the board were hesitant to pay a person of his age. I think Mo Salah's contributions last season just made it incredibly difficult for the board to part ways with him. I think if the board could have justified parting ways with him, they would have. I think you know how boards work, Ayub.
Mm,
But I just don't think they could sell that. They were not going to be able to sell losing Mo Salah on a free. So he played it well. He played his hand well. He had all the leverage. But I think you're starting to see the reasons why, in a sense, Liverpool Football Club and many football clubs in their position, especially with advancing players with of an advanced age, let's say, to give them long-term contracts on big money. You can see why some teams are hesitant because the league moves faster. Small Salah, who had arguably one of the greatest seasons in Premier League history, he looks average, I would say, right
mm,
now, in terms of his running, in terms of his physicality, in terms of his contributions. I can't think of the last. I mean, he looks okay occasionally, but still not the player he was, nowhere near. So there's issues there. And then he's not offering much defensively. You look at Saka, never leaves his fullback alone. Yeah, he's much
mm,
younger, of course. So there's just a number of issues that have culminated into what I see on that football pitch, which is a relatively soft football team. And when you're a soft football team, you're going to get picked off. Forest won at a canter. It wasn't a smash and grab by any stretch. I
mm,
know this must have really hurt you because I even text you. I won't repeat the message; it's not appropriate. But suffice to say, it was something along the lines of "You're cooked," and I'll leave it at
mm.
that. But no, absolutely. I mean, it's Forest were well worthy of their victory.
Yeah, yeah,
Well
yeah.
worthy of their victory. So, yeah, it's a difficult time for Liverpool. It's not easy to know what the answers are. Gary Neville spoke about in his podcast about how maybe he just needs to make some calls, some tough decisions. Wayne Rooney's been speaking about it, and it's getting to that point, isn't it? I mean, they look bereft of any real kind of anything to hold their hat onto. The only thing I would say is, you said, what can they salvage? Just very quickly, for most football teams, I would say, look, top four doesn't mean anything. You want to be challenging for the Premier League title. But I think for Liverpool, it is important because I'm just one of them believers who thinks, and they've done it, shown it before, where if they can get in, they could win the Champions League next season. They're that kind of
Mm,
football team. So just for the sheer fact that they could win that competition the season after, uh, I would like to see them obviously qualifying for the top four. I'm with you. Premier League looks. I don't think you can speak about that right now. It wouldn't make sense. Forget the points. The performances just tell you that if both teams keep playing like this, Arsenal will be ahead by 20 at some point
mm,
than Liverpool. So, yeah, struggling, difficult times. Nobody saw this coming. I mean, transitional year or no transitional year, nobody saw this coming, where they're getting pumped at home by
mm.
Forest 3-0. Difficult one for you for both reasons, because I know you've got a soft spot for Liverpool, but also obviously that result impacted Leeds as well. How do you see it, Ayub? I mean, it's a difficult one, isn't it? You just wouldn't see this coming after the standards that they set last season.
Well, we talked about when I remember when we talked about Liverpool last season, we almost talked about dominating English football for the next 10 years. Uh, and it's completely the reverse. Now, there's also, I mean, you've gone through a number of sort of variables and possibilities as to why they've had such a decline and drop in form. I think it's inexcusable. I think you're being far too lenient on Slot. I think the expectations should be high. I think even he should be sort of uh, sort of putting demands on himself. Once you win the league, I mean, this is a team that's always been there or thereabouts. They've won the league last season. They've strengthened. They've obviously lost players. They've lost key players. I think Diaz, losing Trent Arnold, massive, massive losses. But they've invested huge amounts of money. I think the recruitment's been sort of questionable, especially with the left back Herkes. I mean, I think he's. I don't know what due diligence they did, but he looks a shadow of the player that he was at Bournemouth. And there are some players who just can't make that step up. Uh, but I think Slot needs to be accountable. And I don't go for all this like new players because I think Sunderland have shown us that you can have a brand new team and compete and do well. So and too many coaches sometimes use that transition argument to defend their uh, sort of, I suppose, lack of abilities. Really, I think this is uh, he's been asked questions and he's not been able to find the answers. And I think they still have a squad that should be competing for the league. I don't care that a lot of new players have come to the club. Uh, the fans that I've spoken to and the groups that I'm on are really critical of Slot, and I don't think they'd be too upset if Slot was to go because I just think he's fallen way below the expectations of this football club. And I think whatever the circumstances maybe influencing the performances. They're not good enough because the players he has the players. The system, I don't know what sort of system he's trying to play. At the moment, it just seems so disjointed. You've got gun players who are not playing well. Absolutely, I accept that, but it seems really difficult to understand what his philosophy is at this moment in time. You sort of say that he wants to play a more pleasing on the eye brand of football. At the moment, it's you're almost like sort of flipping a coin and deciding which Liverpool turn up. We had two games against Aston Villa and Real Madrid. Really, really good. I mean, that was almost like the Liverpool of old from last season, but they reverted back to type. So I don't know. I mean, I think Slot should be under pressure, and I think it. I would be seriously saying that if this continues for the next 3 or 4 games, then really the trigger was. They've got to pull the trigger.
You're smoking something. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No way. No way. Honestly, he could. He just needs to avoid getting relegated, which they won. So I don't see the issue here. I mean, come on. Liverpool have had seasons before where, whether it's through injuries or what have you, where they've had slightly shaky seasons. Now, look, they've won the title last season. Winning, if I'm arguing here that Mikel Arteta, even if he fell short this season, I would not be calling for his head because he's got them competing at the highest level. Now, don't get me wrong, it'd be massively disappointing. I'm not shying away from that. But if I'm arguing that for Mikel Arteta, who's not won the Premier League title, you can imagine how much kudos and credit I give to the manager who has won the Premier League title, which Arne Slot has. Look, I can't get with that. And he's not gonna get fired. You know that. Firstly, it's a nonsense, irrespective of what you say. And secondly, it's Liverpool Football Club. They don't really do that. And some will say, well, Brendan Rodgers and all the rest of it, and Roy Hodgson, but they hadn't won Premier League titles, had they, for
Hmm.
Liverpool Football Club? So there is something. There's a cachet that goes with that. I just want to get your thoughts very quickly on. I think you and I do see eye to eye on some of the challenges that Liverpool have. Do you think it's as simple when you see both football teams right now? I don't want to go overboard, but when you watch an Arsenal team, they look hungry, they look motivated, they look like a team scorned in the past, and they look like a team that's really wants to win that Premier League title. You see it. You see it in the
Hmm.
tenacity, the fight. You see it with the manager on the sideline.
Hmm.
There's been many a time this season where Slot's looked, I wouldn't say a little lost, but he looks a little lost in his thoughts on the sidelines where he's thinking, how do I get through to this football team? I always say a team takes the identity of their manager onto the football pitch. Arteta's he's a scrapper, he's a fighter. He wants his team running around, chasing around, tackling around. Some of that you feel like is his kind of upbringing in the British football to some
Hmm.
extent. He spent a couple of years in Rangers, quite a couple of years at Everton, obviously under Moyes and what have you. So you sense that in his playing,
Hmm.
obviously, then at Arsenal under Wenger, I believe. So do you think it's as simple as one team you could sense has up more that's got probably scrapping on an empty stomach, so to speak, really hungry for something, whereas one team looks a little like, well, we've climbed this mountain a few times and we've got perhaps reason to feel sorry for ourselves to some extent. Do you think that it's as simple as that in terms of what you see in terms of product on the pitch? Because that's the difference in aptitude and application I see from both teams right now.
I mean, I don't know if that is the case. I hope that's not the case because sort of United under Ferguson had that template, and you hear Gary Neville sort of talking quite often. It's like you go again. It's right. You've done the job for this year. You go again, and the attitude. I mean, the attitude is absolutely imperative. I mean, you talked about Arsenal, and you talked about their commitment, their aptitude, their application, their desire, the hunger. Now, if you've not won the league, and you know that you are good enough to win the league, maybe the hunger is still there. But I don't buy that. I think there are plenty of teams that have won leagues year after year, year after year, and they park it. They win the league, they park it, and they go again. Uh, there is something fundamentally not right at Liverpool at this moment in time. And it's difficult because there seems to be lots of moving parts. Slot certainly isn't getting a great tune out of this lot at this moment in time, and I think this is where I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to say he's lost the dressing room, but maybe this sort of he's not doing what he should be doing with this group of players. So I don't know. As I said, I'm not sure whether it's a hunger thing. maybe a different manager. And this is why I'm sort of saying maybe it just needs a different voice. I mean, albeit he's been there for a short period of time, but something drastically has happened at that football club. Now we obviously know. I mean, we briefly sort of talked about obviously the death of Diego Jota, but I think there's more than that. I think there's more than that, and this is why it wouldn't seem to me that radical if they did think about changing the manager, thinking, well, there's something not right. It doesn't seem to be going away. It's been there from the start of the season. They've not played that well. I mean, the result against Forest, that was embarrassing. That was absolutely embarrassing. That was unacceptable. I think on it cannot you cannot just say it was a bad day at the office. That was Anfield against an indifferent Forest side, albeit obviously they've just picked up
Yep.
recently, but it's just not acceptable. And I think uh, there's got to be questions asked. There has to be questions asked. You can't just write off a season.
Yeah, I think the challenge he's got right now, Ayub, is that he's made mistakes. I think that's clear. There's no way you can put this down to a transitional situation with players or whatever it may. He's made some mistakes. Now he's got fullbacks that I don't think right now fit for purpose because both are attacking minded. It's not what they need. They look defensively vulnerable. They then don't have a solid base in the middle of the park because they've not strengthened that area for a number of years. I was speaking to my lad about Curtis Jones and his contributions or lack thereof, in terms of is he a Liverpool player? Is he a Liverpool FC player at this stage, in terms of at this stage where you've got to be elite level standards to compete right at the very top? I question that you've got some players perhaps coming to the end of at least their peak. You've got Van Dijk, you've got Salah, you've got even Alisson who's picking up injuries every season, it seems, with
Mm.
some of the dodgiest hamstrings I've ever seen a goalkeeper have. And they've lost some key players, Luis Diaz, to name one, which I knew was going to be a
Yeah.
difficult one for them because of his desire to play vertically off
Mm.
the ball. Now,
Yeah.
you've got that going on. Isak hasn't hit the road running. There's still some talk about him getting fit. I mean, it's November, and you bought for 120 million. At some point, I need to see what you've got now. We've seen it. So it's not a case, just more
Mm.
mental thing, right? In terms of getting sharp, the team playing to his strengths. So I just think he's got a number of things wrong in terms of how to get this team playing in a short way. And look, it may be just a case of having to have, I'm not going to say a transitional year, but more, Mo Salah's a difficult character in the sense of he wants the play to go through him. The pass ball invariably finds its way to that right hand side. Now, how does that mesh with, let's say, an Isak who likes ball early, ball to his feet because he can do magic himself, right? You saw that with Newcastle. So maybe just Arne Slot's caught between two eras to some extent, where he's got on the one hand he wants to hand over the reins to a Florian Wirtz, to a Alexander Isak, but on the other he's still got big characters in the dressing room who still expect to play and expect the game, so to speak, to go through them. So I just think he's struggling in a sense to find the answers. There's no doubt he's struggling to find the answers. You watch them, you can tell they're struggling. I mean, again, Forest, Sean Dyche gets a lot of criticism, let's say, for his pragmatic football. But I mean, they played wonderfully. I mean, it was really nice football.
Mm.
They were popping it around them. That last goal, I mean, defending nowhere. And I mean, just the guys just Hutchinson's just drifting in between football players. Like you're thinking, what kind of defending is this? This is horrible defending. So, yeah, look, he's got a number of things wrong. He doesn't want to play Gomez. He's got issues at foot. He's got issues everywhere, hasn't he? They're not a tough team. McAllister, I come back to it.
Mm.
I'm such a big fan of his, but he looks so short, so short right now. So does he have the answers within the squad? I'm not so sure. He's obviously got a couple of players with key injuries. He is wins. Let's be very clear. They're in the bottom half of the table, which is unthinkable. I laughed at my brother earlier this season when he said to me that Liverpool would finish below United. I laughed. I absolutely laughed. I said, "There's no way." And yet here we are with United about to kick off in the next couple of hours. So, look, a number of issues. They're 11th right now in the table. Of course, they can rescue top four. I don't think anyone's stupid to suggest that they can't. They've got talent in that squad. Let's not get it twisted. But he's going to have to start performing well. It's not as though some of these games they've been unlucky. They've probably
Mm.
picked up 1 or 2 points where you felt they were lucky
Yeah.
to pick up a win
Mm.
or what have you. So they are where they are. The league doesn't lie. They deserve to be 11th right now. They're not doing enough to keep clean sheets. They're not doing enough to win football games. I'm a bit surprised that I thought Isak would have, you know, given him something. He looks like right now the badge is wearing heavy for him. so to speak. So yeah, let's see. Time will tell. Right now, I'm surprised to see the gap between the top team and Liverpool right now, but I think top four is probably the height of their ambition. Not that they can't rescue that. I do expect them to improve over the second half of the season. Um, but to see them finishing or in 11th right now, yeah, Slot has to take some responsibility, but he's earned the right to correct some of that.
Well, uh, whether he does or not, I'm not too sure. I think he's going to be struggling for the rest of the season. And I think it's going to become more and more difficult because I can't see how they're going to arrest this slide. And I think it this is just I can't. I mean, this is the most remarkable turnaround from a team that's won the league. Now I know Man United Ferguson's last season, but there was an answer. I mean, there was a reason for it. Ferguson left. They appointed somebody who was really not fit for purpose. But this is different. This is a manager who's won the league. They've invested heavily. You can question whether all the purchases they've made have been the right purchases, but they've made heavy investment. I mean, you've got Isak. Now, I don't care if he's got injuries or not. What I see is a player, an absolute shadow of the player that was playing for Newcastle. As I said, even with the injuries and recovering from injuries, he just looks absolutely bereft of confidence. And this is up to the manager. The manager is responsible for instilling confidence, having a system that works. If you're investing 120 million in a player, you've got to make sure that the system sort of caters for that. But really, when you pay 120 million for a player, that player should be adaptable. He should be able to play to multiple systems. So at the moment, I think Slot's got a lot of problems, and really, for me, he should feel under pressure because this is Liverpool Football Club. This is not Brentford. This is a big, massive football club where the expectations are rightfully high, and that's my final word on Slot.
No, fair enough. Time will tell. Like I said, it's probably one of the stories of the season so far. You'd never have thought it. After
Yeah.
winning last year, they lost, yes, one or two players, but in tragic circumstances. But they also, like you said, bought some absolutely top footballers all around Europe.
Mm.
So, yeah, difficult times. It's a club that's bounced back before, and I'm sure it will in the future. But difficult times for the manager. Huge, huge tests. You're right, the murmurs are there. If this happened to probably Jurgen Klopp, there probably wouldn't be any murmurings because he's a legend of that football club, liked, well loved, well revered. Slot perhaps doesn't have that standing, even though he's won a Premier League. He's still no Jurgen Klopp in terms of being in the hearts of those Liverpool fans, which is difficult, right? That's not necessarily his fault. That's just the man he followed to some
Mm.
extent. So yeah, difficult times for him, but he gets paid the big bucks to find solutions to
Yeah,
these problems. So
absolutely.
yeah, that's the card you play.
Right, okay. It's quite early in the season, so maybe perhaps it doesn't seem the right time. But really, just I want to just talk about maybe sort of things that have stood out thus far in the season for you. So, is there any sort of talking points that you'd like to pick up on with sort of 12, 13 games of the season gone? Is there anything that's really stood out for you?
Just very quickly, I'm happy to hear your thoughts on this one, so I'll keep mine brief. Right now, the Premier League. I mean, there's a lot of things for me this season. We could talk about inconsistent VAR application. We saw some shoddy decisions, I thought, this weekend as well, but that's par for the course right now. But I won't beat on about that too much. But right now, we've got fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth occupied by Villa, Palace, Brighton, Sunderland, Bournemouth. And beneath them, you've got big football teams or big football clubs, big institutions, Spurs, United, Liverpool. Yes, United still yet to kick off, so they might gazump that. But you've got Spurs, United, Liverpool, and Newcastle all below those football clubs. And it just goes to show, I just wanted to highlight, Palace have been on a run for quite some time. With Glasner, they won their FA Cup last year. I think in the calendar table they're about sixth as well. So that's no fluke. The fact that they find
Mm-hmm.
themselves fifth. Villa had a shaky start, but I think we all respect Unai Emery. We know what he's about. It just took him a little bit of time. If you remember, there was a lot of turnover of football players there as
Yeah.
well. But in Ramsey, it just took a little bit of time to settle. They had a shocking start to the season, but they now find themselves in fourth. Brighton Hersler's done a fantastic job there again. You're losing some players, yet he still finds ways. I mean, look at Danny Welbeck performing incredibly well
Mm.
up front. Sunderland, I'll let you speak on that. You've spoken about that eloquently enough. And then Bournemouth, another manager that you're incredibly proud about. It just goes to show you very quickly that if you're both ways. If you're a big football club that gives you no divine right to places in the league, this is a meritocracy. You play 38 games to decide who's the best team, and that's the standings. And we've seen that in recent seasons where these, let's call them middle football clubs that
Mm.
maybe punching slightly above their weight, that make their calling like Brighton do on developing players, selling them on for big money, as they
Yeah.
have done with Caicedo, João Pedro, just to name a few. Um, but yet, if you get the right manager and you have the right ethos, you have the right backing, um, a little bit of good grace and a bit of good luck that you need in the Premier League. But it's no fluke, is it? I mean, Villa
Mm.
weren't always a football club that was in the top four, top five, yet Unai Emery has, through different challenges, because they've not had a whole lot of money to spend, he's got them up there fighting. Glasner's done an incredible job. I think he's destined maybe for a
Yeah.
big job because in terms of what he's done, they're hard to beat. He's turned Mateta into a player who looked a lump, let's be very clear, in terms of his early time at Palace, and he looks a cultured striker. He's playing for France. Sunderland, incredible story, probably the story of the season. Bournemouth, fantastic effort. Yeah, they've had a few wobbles, but Semenyo,
Mm.
I mean, he may well move on. He's well liked by some of the football clubs because he's had a fantastic start to the season, but they play some wonderful football. Are they a bit open? Yes. Are they entertaining? For sure. But that's the manager. He goes there, he plays football, and he's thinking that's my best way to keep this team up and keep them in the top half of the table. So it's interesting just to see these kind of middling football clubs that you don't expect to be punching above their weight. Yeah, Villa are not middling, fine. They're a huge
Mm.
institution of a football club. But you can take the point where some of these other bigger clubs where if you're not quite at it, like your Liverpools, like your Uniteds, like your Spurs. I mean, Spurs finished 17th last year and they're ninth
Mm.
right now, taking a pasting yesterday. Newcastle struggling, still a big football club, playing Champions League football. So for me, it's just interesting to see that if you are a football club that, and even maybe your football club, where you can be, let's say, bottom of the barrel, but if you make a shrewd appointment, buy some good players, have some good standing, have a good idea of how you're going to build that football club, it goes to show that you can compete in this league with the big boys. So perhaps it's not as divided or as, let's say, predictable as it once was. Yeah, maybe the same teams are winning the Premier League, fine, because that's those margins at the very top that you speak about. That last step is the biggest one to
Mm.
take. But maybe in that kind of middle area, you're starting to see clubs reap the benefits and reap the rewards of, let's say, a stable kind of some sort of continuity of strategy, of vision, support, backing the right manager, getting the right manager on board in the first place. I'm sure you'll go to Leeds with that one. But so yeah, that for me is an interesting developing storyline because who knows, we may see a few new football clubs. Could Palace compete for the Champions League? Maybe they are short, but who knows? Brighton, Sunderland, at push, maybe Bournemouth. Remember, last year they were probably just there or thereabouts with 30, 31 games
Mm.
done. So for me, that's one to keep an eye on for the rest of the season, how these football clubs are competing at the very top level of the Premier League.
It's a really interesting sort of point that you've raised, and you sort of alluded to it. All of these clubs, I mean, there's a common denominator. It's the manager, it's the coaches. These are. I mean, Brighton, I think I've got a coach who's 33, 34. He's one of the youngest coaches in the Premier League. In fact, I think he is the youngest coach in the Premier League. So a lot of these are sort of bright coaches, innovative coaches. And I think until Bielsa, I used to always be sort of slightly sort of reticent in terms of putting a huge amount of emphasis on a coach. I think coach, without a doubt, is important. But I used to always think it's the players. If you've got great players, you can have a mediocre coach and it will still be a successful club. But I think I'm more and more inclined to think because what Bielsa did was make a team full of very average and ordinary players into a very, very good team, good players. Eventually won promotion, and then we finished ninth with largely the same group of players that he got promoted. So it shows what a really good coach can do. And this is why, again, I talk about Slot because it's absolutely imperative now that you have a really, really good coach at the helm. If you're a club that wants to progress, it's important. Regis Labrie, I mean, I've talked about Sunderland before, a really exciting coach, a really good coach.
Mm.
Uh, but it's one where the owners have not looked at a history where he's proven to be a successful coach. It's in a sense, there's a philosophy that these coaches have. And maybe that's what clubs need to do rather than just look at the track record. Has he been successful? Has he won trophies? Maybe sometimes it's a case of stepping back and looking at the ideology, the philosophy, look at what he's done with certain individuals, look at how he improves players. Uh, and that is really what I'm looking at in terms of the clubs that have done really, really well, surprisingly, but perhaps not surprisingly, because at the helm, that's the key. That's the key position. You want to make sure that the person that's leading the football club on the pitch is somebody who can bring out the best in the individuals that you've got. And I think it's a good lesson for other clubs and clubs like Leeds United to look at. Because we're obviously at the moment in a dire situation, and we're a club that's going to get relegated under this manager. So
Do you think
it's a
they'll make a
really
change?
interesting point.
Do you think they'll
I
make
think
a
the
change?
problem is if Rangers are anything to go by, because our owners are sort of, I think the past owners of Rangers as well, they took ages before they pulled the trigger on Russell Martin.
Mm, mm.
And again, this goes back to the point you were talking about, Slot, 100 points last season, won the league. Does that give that extra sort of security to a coach? If it does, I mean, I would have pulled the trigger in the summer. I mean, you know my thoughts on Daniel
Yeah,
Fark. I think Daniel Fark. Yeah, go on.
but I was just going to say, I think the board agreed with you. Know, I mean, they tried their best to move on from him in the
Yeah,
summer.
yeah,
Was that not the
they
case?
did. They did. And the problem was, this is the fans, Leeds fans are very emotional. With the 100 points, they leaked the story just to get a feel and a flavour of what fans think. And the idiots, unfortunately, sort of said, I mean, they were outraged. How dare they get rid of Fark, or at least talk about getting rid of Fark? So I think they sort of backtracked and they kept the man. I mean, much to my chagrin, because I thought that was going to be a mistake, and it's proven to be the case. I mean, he did all right. I think in defence of Fark, he's performed slightly better at the start of the season. Yesterday, there's no question he's not lost the dressing room. The players gave it everything, but we're just a poor side. We've got players of limited ability. Now, the problem is playing in the Premier League. If you've got limited ability, you can fight and scrap for 80 minutes, 85 minutes, but you're always going to be outdone by quality, which was the case. We've recruited horrifically. We wanted an upgrade on Melier. I think the club have almost like sort of winding us up. They've actually got somebody who's a lot worse than Melier. I mean, I don't know whether you saw the goal, the Morgan Rogers free kick. I mean, it was, I thought my screen had frozen because he never moved. So it's going back to what you were saying. I think coaches are absolutely integral to a club. You pick the right coach, and then you do the rest. Uh, and if that coach isn't working, you've got to make a choice. You can't carry on if a coach is not performing. I think that's the way it should be. This is modern football. Don't let it linger. Don't sort of think, oh, it'll come right. Get rid of the man.
I was going to say, look, you alluded to it there in your earlier comments that they've actually fared, in a sense, better than what you would have thought as well. Now, the problem is they're struggling in recent times, and you wonder whether that's them setting out where they've been found out a little bit. Confidence is obviously a little bit shy. Obviously, yesterday when they went a goal up, you're thinking, or the day before, I should say. Oh no, it was yesterday actually. Yeah, you'd
Yeah,
think, oh, okay, with they were a bit fortuitous in the way it happened, but you're thinking, right, can we hold on? And you knew they were never going to hold on,
yeah,
not in a month of Sundays, but can you get a draw? The moment, obviously, Villa equalised, plenty of time left. You thought, well, there's only one winner, and Leeds again the confidence aspect. They don't look like the kind of team that's going to be like, right, two banks of five guys, let's dig in, let's see if we can get a point. So you're right about the talent. But it's interesting what you said. They fared better in a sense than what you would have thought early on, and now
mm,
we're pushing December shortly. Can they get to the January transfer window still in touch? Now, Forest, that result's a killer. I mean, that result
yeah,
you'd have thought Liverpool going to do you a solid there.
yeah,
Um, at West Ham, I think were pulled back to 2-2, was it?
yeah,
I
yeah,
think,
yeah, yeah.
and could
2-2.
have
Yeah.
lost the game in the end as well. So, look, you're in there somewhere. Do I think you're playing well enough to stay up? No. But what it means is, can you limp through to January where you can perhaps consider the managerial situation? Because you know for sure the owners are looking at it. There's no two ways about it, especially probably because they're in touch. They're probably thinking, listen, this could be a quick appointment, 19 games left maybe from January onwards, and see if we can survive because there is that chance. But they're going to have to infuse that team with some talent. I've watched them recently in recent games. They look like a championship team.
Yeah,
They don't have the consistent. They look good for a 5 minute period, 10 minute period, crowds up, all the rest of it playing through the thirds. But come the final third, they don't look sure of themselves. They don't look confident, and at the back, they just look still too open for my liking in terms of being able to. They're too offensive minded to some extent. They just can't dig in and defend. So, yeah, I'm with you. It looks tough right now, uh, but I think there's enough there to keep them within touching distance come January. Now, at that point, the board's going to have to take a call. Do we take our medicine, go back to the championship, or do we make a real fist of it? What do you think? Which way are they going to lean come January?
I don't think they've got a clue. I think the 49ers are absolutely clueless. They have no idea how to run a football club. I mean, they did all right in the championship, but it's easier. It's easier because we've got the pull. We're a big club in the championship, so therefore it's easier to attract players. I think the way that they've conducted our season back into the Premier League has been absolutely horrific. I mean, the recruitment it's been disgraceful, and I think having Fark has impacted the players that we've been able to attract because it's a topic that we've talked about before, but for a manager who got 100 points, uh, won the championship, no club has expressed an interest in him apart from one, and that's Norwich, his former club, who are in the doldrums at the moment. That really should tell you something. The problem with Fark also is, unlike unlike a Regis Lebris, he's not able to attract players. I mean, we were interested, or we'd put in bids for players, but they just were reluctant to come. And they went to Sunderland. I think two or three players that ended up in Sunderland that we'd actually put a bid initially for them, albeit Sunderland paid a little bit more over the odds. But there was no player expressing a desire to come to Leeds. And I put that down to Fark as well. There's nothing about him that is appealing. He's somebody that's he thought Jed Spence wasn't good enough.
Mm,
Uh,
mm,
he's played for England. We had a player last season that had flashes of brilliance. I mean, in fact, he was one of our sort of X factor players,
mm,
Largi Ramazani. Uh, because he didn't work hard enough, he shipped him away. So this is this is a player that, remember, he was the one. I mean, he's had a great deal of influence in the recruitment. Now, a lot of the players that we've got, these weren't our first choices, but there certainly were choices that Fark has signed off on. DTL and Lucas Nemechi. When you're trying to stay in this league,
yeah,
these two guys aren't. I mean, these. I mean, it's
yeah,
Nemechi's goal. I mean, he scored a goal yesterday, but that was, if you saw the goal, it was kicked at him and it went off his shin into the goal. So, and DCL, I mean, would you believe it? I mean, that just sums him up. Daniel James scores an equaliser, or at least he sort of does
yeah.
everything to score an equaliser. This comedian, this clown, this striker who's got the most sort of he's impotent in front of goal. He sort of goes off his hand. It just sums up the rubbish that we have up top. So it's
I,
not looking good.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I shouldn't have mocked him, but I always found it a little bit funny when I think it was against Wolves that he scored. I might be wrong with that. Calvert-Lewin when he scored and he was turning around showing the crowd the name on it on the back, and I just thought it was quite funny because I just thought who's Dominic Calvert-Lewin to show the fans as though don't you forget about me as though he's done
No,
something
no,
in the
I
game.
think it was because I think, yeah, because remember, he scores so infrequently that he does have to
yeah,
remind people who he is.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
thinking,
exactly, exactly.
who is this guy?
Yeah, absolutely. Just very quickly, just before we finish, just want to slightly switch gears back to our original topic, if you may indulge me. You seem quite bullish that this is a done deal for Arsenal. I can't see it that way, even from a neutral perspective. It's too early. Are they the best team? Yes. Just slightly looking ahead to next weekend's game. I mean, even I'd say if they can go and win at Stamford Bridge, then yeah, that puts also a little bit of, let's call it, a mental shot within the armory of the rivals, doesn't it? That oof, they've won back to back against Spurs, against Chelsea. How do you see it? Do you see that game as, in some ways, a litmus test to say, look, if you're serious about winning this thing and you want to lay down a real marker to say not only are we the best team, but we're able to go to these grounds, we're able to go to these big teams that are in form. Chelsea are in form right now. They're doing nice.
Mm.
They'll be well up for it, and they're playing good stuff, I think, going forward. Uh, Goalkeeper's also started to get a little bit better with his handling as well from set pieces. How do you see it? Just the very early kind of thoughts on that game? Do you see that as like if they get over the line on this one, then that really is a bit of a psychological blow for their rivals, and that'll be a huge fill up for Arsenal's confidence. Is that how you see it?
No, I don't. I think for Arsenal, they're probably not worrying about it at all. I think they're just going to sort of view it because I don't think there's anybody that this Arsenal side fear. And I think there's almost like there's a real enthusiasm. I mean they'll be probably chomping at the bit to play Chelsea without any fear at all. I think for Chelsea, it's almost like a free hit because I don't know. I think deep down they probably sort of think that the Arsenal are much, much better. And they probably might be sort of thinking, right, let's just sort of see exactly where we're at. So I don't think for the Arsenal, I think Arsenal, there's nobody in world football at this moment or in club football at the moment that Arsenal will be reluctant to play or apprehensive. I think there will be everybody that they sort of come across is there to be walloped. And I think that's the way they're going to look at it because they're just covering every single base. I mean, I if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be sort of booking the day that the open top bus parade will be happening in North London because that's how confident I am, or I would be, that Arsenal are winning the league. I mean, as I said, my expectation is just forget the league, Champions League, FA Cup, win everything, win the World Cup as well.
Yeah, hyperbole. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Look, they're in a good spot. I see it as a huge game. I see it as a huge opportunity, to be honest. Not in terms of who as a threat. Chelsea are a really good football team. They're second in the
Yeah,
league, and they're playing some good stuff. And therein lies the opportunity, to be fair, to put daylight and distance between them and Chelsea. You then, I think, play a couple of home games as well against teams that you think you can beat. I think they've got Wolves at home at some point, and I think they've got Brentford at some point as well. Not saying they can't lose, but also just feel confident that they can beat those sides. I just think it just gives them a huge deal of confidence, and slowly but surely, you know how it is. The game's ebb away. If you just keep
yeah,
piling on points, the game's
mm,
ebb away before you know it, you're
yeah.
in January, February. So they've just got to keep on. If Arsenal keep this standard up, they'll win. They'll win the Premier League, and that's what they should be thinking about. Opportunity knocks. Let's see.
Right, okay. And on that note, we'll call it a day. So, as always, thank you for watching. Uh, Please put your thoughts down as to what you think is wrong with Liverpool, especially the Liverpool supporters. I'm intrigued to find out what you think uh, the issues are. And do you want Slot out? Always obviously sort of thinks that Slot should be given a 10-year deal. But what's your thoughts? So let us know what your thoughts are. And until the next time, stay safe, stay warm. We'll see you later.